It happened in the middle of the hallway, beneath the flickering white lights that made everything look colder than it already felt. Students were rushing past, lockers slamming, laughter echoing, sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. And there she was, Emily, pressed against the steel door of her locker, her backpack slipping off one shoulder, her breathing sharp and shallow. 3 boys stood in front of her, towering, blocking her way. She tried to shrink into herself, her chest heaving as she muttered something no one could hear. Then one of them laughed, a cruel, guttural sound, and reached forward. His hand grabbed where it never should have gone. The world around her went silent. All she could hear was the pounding in her ears and the roaring memories of a past she had fought to bury. Emily wasn't always this quiet. There had been a time, not long ago, though it felt like another lifetime, when she'd run barefoot through the grass in her grandmother's garden, her hair wild in the wind, her voice loud and unafraid. But things had changed when her family moved to the city 2 years ago. Her mother worked 2 jobs, her father was gone, and Emily had learned that in crowded places, sometimes disappearing was the safest way to survive. The school hallways were no exception. People barely noticed her, until the wrong kind of attention found her. It had happened before, in different shapes, in different cities. But this time, it hit a nerve buried so deep it almost tore her apart. When the boy's hand touched her, it wasn't just the violation of the moment. It was the smell of the liquor on her uncle's breath from years ago, the shadowy room, the way her small voice had been ignored when she tried to tell someone. It was the memory of running out of that house with her heart in her throat, wishing she could rip her own skin off just to feel clean again. Back then, she had promised herself she would never let anyone take her power again. But promises are easy to make when you feel safe, and safety was something she hadn't felt in years. The laughter of the boys jolted her back into the present. Her hands were trembling so hard she could barely hold her backpack. People were watching. Some pretended not to see. Some smirked. No one moved to help. Emily's voice cracked when she told him to stop, and that crack seemed to fuel them. They thought she was weak. They thought she was just a shy, harmless girl who wouldn't fight back. They didn't know that inside her, there was a storm years in the making. The rest of that day passed in a blur. She sat through her classes without hearing a word. Her pen scribbled nonsense across her notebook while her mind spiraled. She could feel their eyes on her in the cafeteria, hear the muffled chuckles behind her back. Every bone in her body told her to go home, curl into bed, and let the world fade away. But something heavier kept her still, a whisper deep inside that said, "Enough." That night, Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling, her fists clenched. She thought about how her grandmother used to say, "When you've had enough, you'll stop bending and start standing." Maybe this was the moment. Emily's hidden past wasn't just about pain, it was about survival. After leaving her uncle's house, she had spent a year in a youth self-defense program run by a retired police officer who treated every girl like she was worth protecting. She had learned how to plant her feet, how to use her voice like a weapon, how to make her small frame work for her instead of against her. She had stopped practicing when she moved, afraid that people would notice and ask questions. But the muscle memory was still there, waiting. The next morning, when she walked into school, the same boys were leaning against the lockers, watching for her. Her pulse raced, but her steps didn't falter. When they blocked her path again, one of them reached for her shoulder. This time, she didn't shrink. Her voice was steady, sharp, and it cut through the hallway noise like glass. She told him to move. He smirked, made the same crude gesture toward her chest. That's when her body took over. One quick step back, one sharp twist of his wrist, and the boy's grin turned into a cry of pain. The others stepped forward, but the way she held herself, chin high, eyes locked, made them freeze. The crowd that had once stood by in silence was now wide-eyed, whispering. Emily didn't shout. She didn't swear. She simply stepped around them and walked away. Her legs were shaking, but her heart felt strangely still. It wasn't victory she felt. It wasn't revenge. It was something quieter, stronger. The knowledge that she was no longer the same girl who had once been silenced. Over the weeks that followed, rumors spread. Some said she'd gone crazy. Others whispered about her past, making up their own stories. But a few girls started walking with her in the hallways, sitting with her at lunch. One of them, a freshman with tearful eyes, told Emily that seeing her stand up that day had given her the courage to tell a teacher about the boy who wouldn't leave her alone. Emily realized then that power wasn't just about fighting back, it was about showing others they could, too. By the end of the semester, Emily's voice was no longer a whisper. She joined the school's peer support group, speaking to younger students about boundaries, respect, and the right to defend themselves. Some days, the memories still came, in dreams, in sudden moments when she smelled something familiar or heard a certain laugh. But she no longer felt trapped in them. She carried them like scars, yes, but scars that reminded her she had survived. And the boys? They avoided her now, their laughter subdued when she passed. They had learned something the hard way, that the shy girl they thought they could break had a history that had already tried to destroy her and failed. What they grabbed wasn't weakness. It was a survivor's body, a survivor's spirit, and it belonged entirely to her.